today in this class, what we are going to do is we are going to analyze the question papers of this year exam, 2025 UPSC exam. Exam is already conducted on 31st of August. So we will analyze in detail in this class both the papers, paper 1 and paper 2 of philosophy optional. In next few classes, what also I will do is I will try to give the model answers for this year's exam papers. So first, let us start an analysis. I have gone through both the papers in detail and find that this year's paper is actually, if you can say, particularly for non-philosophy students, is tougher than previous year's papers, if 2-3 years papers or 5 years papers, if you see, because inter-school comparisons are there. Even comparisons of Western and Indian philosophies are specifically have been asked actually. Questions are more analytical, comparative. So you have to apply your mind in the exam hall itself, because sometimes what happens, we prepare the question and same questions come. It's very easy to write. I mean, you can write the points, you can write the paragraphs or terms, etc., which which you remember. But this year's, I mean, definitely few questions were direct questions also, but many questions, I mean, more in number compared to previous year's papers, if you compare, were indirect questions. They were comparative, inter-philosophical schools comparisons between Western and Indian philosophy, and also analytical questions were there. So what I will do is I have already prepared quite detailed analysis. So I will start that. But before that, let us see how many questions, because I mean, this year's questions or papers were also, if you see the structure and pattern, they were similar to previous years. So number of questions or uh, parts or subparts of the questions were almost same of the previous year. This is, I mean, paper 1. If you see in question 1, there are 5 parts. Question 2, again, 3 parts. And then according, I mean, other questions also 3 parts. Then similarly, question 5th also has 5 parts, and first and fifth are compulsory, and then you have to select. I mean, basically, 5 questions have to be attempted out of the 8. This is paper 1. Now, similarly, if you see, this is paper 2. So this is just I have as a sample, as a glance, so that you can see the structure of the question papers are similar to earlier years. There is no difference. But then the standard of questions or the framing of the questions are really different. So we'll try to understand what differences are there and how this year's exam could have been attempted. So see, first I will start with paper 1 and then I will go to paper 2. Paper 1, as I told, I mean, the structure is same, but it has more analytical questions, more interdisciplinary questions, particularly if you compare with previous years. Important shifts are there, and it requires very targeted kind of preparation by students, and also optimal answer writing. Because see, the point is, once the questions are asked in such a way that you have to think then and there, because you might have read the topics or 2 topics, but here you have to basically take some content from one topic, some content from other, and then you have to basically frame your answer and you have to write. So that was the nature of the question. As I told, overall structure of the paper, structure has remained stable. Section A, Section B, Western philosophy, Indian philosophy. So there is no difference in that. Number of questions, number of words, marks, etc. all are same. Now, second point which I want to say is word limits also same. There is no difference. 150 words to 300 words. Different three kinds of questions are there. Three marks, 10 marks, 15 marks, and 20 marks questions. So I mean that is also not much different. But where the difference is there? I mean, let us see. As far as topics we see, there are some consistent topics and some differences have been there. Now, what are the consistent core areas or topics from Western philosophy? If you see, Plato has been asked, Aristotle, Descartes, Kant, Hume, modern analytic thinkers like Russell, Wittgenstein, Kuhn have been featured in this also and in earlier exams also. I mean, if you see last 3 years papers also, these philosophers, they feature there. In Indian philosophy, again, Nyaya Vaisheshik, Sankhya, Advait, Mimamsa, Jain, Buddhist schools, particularly Vedanta debates. This is important because one school versus other school that has been asked in this year also and previous years also. Now, this year's particularly analytical, as I told, analytical questions were more, analytical flavor was more. So while earlier papers allowed relatively descriptive definition based answers or questions were there, particularly 2023, 2024, if you recent years, if you see. But 2024 and 25, 24 slightly, but 2025 more. They sharply elevate the importance of critical evaluation, comparisons, and application. So, I mean, from descriptive, it has come to a more analysis kind of thing. And the trend has been from 23, 24, 25, gradually it has increased, and in 2025, it's having maximum that kind of questions are there. Accordingly, most questions now demand not only explanation, but also critique. I mean, the framing itself is like that. For example, challenges to Kant by Hegel, objections against Mayavad, or evaluative. I mean, these things normally you write while describing Mayavad, what were the objections, or while describing Kant, what were the challenges by Hegel. So, I mean, these were the, I mean, part of the answers which earlier in descriptive questions you might have written. But here, directly that thing was asked. So basically, you have to give, in further critical evaluation of that question, you have to, answer you have to give critical evaluation of critical evaluation. I mean, that kind of thing is there. So evaluative distinction, I mean, this is another question was there, evaluative distinctions between strong and weak verification. So these kind of complexities or the evaluative nature has increased. Recent papers also require drawing links across philosophers and doctrines, because this is again interphilosophic schools comparisons are there. Compare and contrast words have been used. Explain with reference to these words have been used. So that kind of comparisons and contrasts are there. Then, particularly in Indian philosophy, questions explicitly request precise use of Sanskrit terms and exact classical definitions. So this is again another elevation of the question paper. If you see, I mean, normally also you study, but then you try to answer in some topic and take a part of this. But here directly those things have been asked. So for example, Swata Pramanavad, Partha Pramanavad, Abhav, Bimba Pratibimbavad. I mean, this tests both memory and understanding also. So classical terminology, distinction between sub-schools, for example, Bhatt and Prabhakar school of Mimamsa, and doctrines subtle nuances are increasingly prioritized, penalizing superficial preparation. So this is what I wanted to say. If any student prepares very superficially, he may not be able to, catch the uh, appropriate language or appropriate content for the answer. So one has to go deep and try to understand the concepts so that in any form the question is asked, one can answer, and particularly comparisons. This is very, very important. So again, another topic, focus on philosophy of language and contemporary issues, particularly in Western philosophy, uh, theory of descriptions of Russell, then language and meaning, Wittgenstein, and logical positivists and Quinn, etc., and critiques of empiricism. These were the prominent topics. So there is in this also there is a visible pattern of at least one or two questions every year on contemporary concerns and analytical philosophy, which demand both outline and critique of various positions. Then if you compare section wise, what I have done is 2023, 2024, 2025, how the question paper trend has changed, just for reference. So if you see the breadth of coverage, so in 23, it's balanced across all major schools. In 24, slightly more analytical and debating it has become. And 2025, highly analytical, and integration has been emphasized among various schools. Then Western focus. In 2022, existentialism, rationalism, empiricism, language, etc. 2024, rationalism, empiricism, analytic philosophy. 2025, Plato, Aristotle, classics, and plus analytic philosophy. If you see Indian philosophy, all core darsanas were asked in 2023. 2024, strong on Advaita, Mimamsa, causation, etc. 2025, conceptual debates, technical terms have been emphasized here in 2025. Then critique demand, how the critique demand in the various years papers. 2023, it was moderate. 2024, it was high. And 2025, it was very high, especially comparisons and critiques. So this is the, if you see gradual increase in the critique and comparisons. In 2000, technical rigor, if you see, 2023 moderate, high. 2025, again, it's very high. So precision of Sanskrit definitions, all these things. Then answer demand, 2023, mostly it's explained plus some critique. 2024, mainly critical, analytical, concise, etc. 2025, analytical, comparative, critical by default. So here, this can be the most important characteristic of 2025 exam papers, particularly paper 1. Paper 2, again, I will come, but paper 1 and paper 2 also, some analysis of paper 1 also applies to paper 2 as well. So that also we should understand. Now, basically, what should be the preparation strategy in view of this kind of question paper? So first point is, do not skip any school or philosopher, because usually the questions are asked from almost all the schools, all philosophers, all topics. There are 20 topics, so all 20 topics are covered. Rotation ensures all areas are touched across years. Then strong conceptual mapping, tables, points of difference is now essential, because usually they are asking different differentiations or comparisons. So unless that kind of clarity is there, you will not be able to answer. Then answer writing practice. This I have repeatedly told, and every student knows also, is very, very important, because these kind of question papers are very demanding, because you have to think the answer there itself. So once, that also takes a lot of time. So, and number of words are fixed. So if you don't practice well, if you don't, because if you don't give answer in that number of words, again, you are going to lose marks. If you are going to overstep in your time, you will miss a few questions. So all those problems will be there. So structure, mean, answer writing practice is very, very important. And while practicing itself, you have to structure your answers in usually introduction, body conclusion, use definitions, cite original text where possible, and always finish with a critical or contemporary note. So this kind of framework in your answer, if you follow, perhaps you will be, because see, sometimes I keep on telling, if there is a directive that critically evaluate, any you will go by 60-40, 60% you will give exposition, 40% you will go critical evaluation, including conclusion. Even though there is no directive, even though directive is explained, then also it's always better to take up last two paragraphs, uh, critical evaluation. Last paragraph has to be some concluding remark, and the second last paragraph should give some critical or comparative statement, comparative note. So that has to be done. So, I mean, if you practice accordingly, I mean, perhaps you will be in better position to tackle these kind of answers or questions or these kind of question papers if it come in exam. If it's very descriptive kind of question papers comes, direct question paper comes, then it's anyway easy for everybody. Whosoever has read that topic will be able to write. But if you prepare like this, even if it is critically evaluate or compare this system with that system or compare this Swata Pramanvad with Partha, so you will be in better position to answer. Use of precise technical language. This again very important for Indian philosophy uh, and even for Western also. I keep on telling original technical language, and sometimes because Indian philosophy mostly relies on Sanskrit text. So Sanskrit technical words you can use. Western philosophy usually they Greek, Latin, or English text. So I mean original language or original term if you use, you are going to fetch better marks. Then again, there are some new and rising expectation. I mean, this kind of preparation strategy, and earlier what I have told is, I mean, basically students do prepare like that, uh, but sometimes their focus is only on descriptive preparations, not on evaluative preparations. So, I mean, this has been emphasized till now. But then there are some additions also one should do. For example, prepare short notes on contemporary philosophy of language, verification, analytic philosophy for the compulsory short question sector. Be ready to use critiques, both Western and Indian, and frame them in comparative perspectives for higher marks. So again, critical evaluation, comparison, this has to be focused in your study. Expect the paper to reward original structuring and answer organization. Diagrammatic table format for comparisons, use of contemporary examples or analogies is often advantageous. So basically, this kind of, uh, preparations or inputs, if you include in your preparations, you will be better placed to answer the questions. So 2025 paper, uh, in line of previous papers, obviously expects students to be critical, comparative, and conceptual, not merely repeaters of textbook content. Uh, Practicing answer, writing under timed conditions, revising all topics, developing comparative frameworks, and focusing on critiques and contemporary implications are absolutely crucial. This is the sum and substance of the strategy also, you can say, and the analysis also, you can say. Then smart study we have to do, mapping past papers, identifying recurring themes, and preparing for cross-sectional and comparative questions is the surest pathway to high performance. Uh, so basically, what is rewarded is an integrated, analytical, and precise approach in philosophy with a deep familiarity with both Western and Indian traditions, consistent focus on contemporary analytic topics, and clarity in critique and original thought is rewarded in these kind of exams, which are little different from, I mean, UPSC exam was, I mean, anyway, it's different from traditional college or university exams, but this year's paper particularly, it has I can say it is even different as far as previous years UPSC papers are uh, compared. I mean, if you compare, so I mean that kind of preparation is required for answering this kind of question paper. Now we'll go to paper 2. Paper 2, again, I mean, it's balanced paper, but again, I will say intellectually more demanding. So both socio-political philosophy and philosophy of religion. I mean, as the structure, if you see, are fully represented. But examiner wanted more than definitions or summaries. Each question required conceptual clarity, comparison, and critical evaluation. So here again, same thing, which we saw in the paper 1, similar flavor is there in paper 2 also. So you have to have clear understanding of doctrines. Then you have to think of comparisons between Indian and Western thinkers, and then you have to also analyze strengths, weaknesses, and modern relevance uh, of the topics of the idea or of the theory. So that kind of critical evaluation is required. And then applied angle is also important. So linking ideas with current debates or practical issues. So what does it mean? That rote preparation is not enough. Students need to develop the ability to think philosophically and comparatively, and I will also add critically. So that kind of thinking is required for tackling this question paper. Now, if you go section wise, section A, socio-political philosophy. Now, this section, if you see justice and equality, this is a recurring theme. Every year it is asked, and this year also it was there. Then Marxism as ideology, it was asked. Secularism in multicultural societies, Kautilya's view of sovereignty, democracy, and liberty. So if you see about justice and equality, these topics appear every year. If you see 2022, 23, 24, 25, every year this topic has appeared. This includes Rawls, Marx, liberty. Student must prepare all theories, Plato, Aristotle, Rawls, Nozick, Marx, Ambedkar, and Gandhi. Now, Indian emphasis has been there, a key point in this year's paper. The question on Kautilya shows that UPSC is increasingly focusing on Indian political thought, not just Western philosophers. Similarly, Ambedkar and Gandhi's ideas are also often expected. Another point is applied angle, secularism in multicultural societies. Forces one to think about Indian constitutional issues, of course, minority rights and religious tolerance, not just abstract definitions. So applied angle is also there. So what are the lessons for students as far as section A is concerned? So section A requires both theoretical clarity, applied examples from current affairs. So here section A basically is applied. If I'm saying it means current affairs flavor is there as far as part A or section A of paper 2 of philosophy optional is concerned. So for high marks, students must show how classical theories of justice, liberty, sovereignty apply to modern India and modern world. So this is again, so on the one hand, it's critical, it's more analytical, it's also applied, it is integrated with current affairs. So all these are there as far as section A is concerned. Now section B, philosophy of religion, if you see. This section, these were the topics mainly covered: Nyaya's proofs for God, Advaita's Anirvachaniyata and religious language, immortality of soul and rebirth in Gita, Radha Krishnan on religious experience, Vivekananda on pluralism and universal religion, normative principles and God in ethics. So these were the main topics covered as far as section B is concerned. So what are my, analysis or observation after seeing these topics? First is religious language. this is asked every year. Because last 5 years papers I have included in this analysis or study, if you can see. Symbols in 2022, cognitive and non-cognitive in 2023, verification theory in 2024, and this year Anirvachaniyata in 2025. This is a permanent area of focus. Similarly, proofs of God. This is again a consistent chapter or topic, you can say. However, this time Indian angle is there. That is, Nyaya's 9 proofs have been asked. So, but comparison with Aquinas, Kant, Buddhism, and Charvak is expected. So, this is again important. Then immortality and rebirth, another topic. It has been regularly repeated, but this year it framed through Gita. This forces students to contrast with Buddhism and modern critics. This is again important. Then religious experience. This year's question, Radha Krishnan question, requires to show both his views and criticisms. So experience, reductionism, inclusivism. Then pluralism. Vivekananda's universal religion was asked this year, was linked to conflicting truth claims of religions. So what does it mean? UPSC's trend of linking classical Indian thinkers to modern debates. This is the trend. So what is the, section B, what is the lesson for a student? It requires mastery over Indian systems. That is Nyaya, Advait, Buddhism, Vedanta, Gita, and Western philosophy of religion, Aquinas, Hick, Wittgenstein, Platinga, Ayer, Flew. Student must be ready to compare and evaluate, not just explain. So this is the main crux of the lesson as far as this analysis is concerned. So most of the topics you may be studying in paper 1 also. For example, Nyaya, Advait, Buddhism, Vedanta, Gita. Similarly, Wittgenstein, Ayer, Platinga. So basically, you have to, in paper 2, you have to take a lot of content from paper 1 as well. So that you should understand and you should know. Now, what is the how it compares of 5 years? I mean, it's 5 years, not 3 years. So first is, what are the common themes? Section A, justice, equality, liberty, secularism. These are common themes. Section B, proofs for God, religious language, immortality, rebirth are also common. But then what are the shifts? How the whole flavor has shifted or the trend has shifted? Let us try to see that. In 2022-23 were more Western heavy. That is Rawls, Locke, verification, symbols, etc. 2024 leaned towards logical positivism and analytical philosophy. But 2025 returns to Indian thinkers. So more focus as far as paper 2 is concerned is on Indian thinkers. They have questions from Nyaya, Shankar, Gita, Vivekananda, Radhakrishnan, Kautilya. So this is the specific characteristics as far as 2025 paper 2 of philosophy is concerned. So trend is UPSC now expects comparative integration. Answer must combine both Indian, Western, and modern critics. Now, if you see the difficulty level, this question paper, 2025 paper, is in my opinion, moderately difficult. The topics are familiar, but require deeper analysis. It's not that whatever you remember, you write, and then it's not like that. You have to think properly, you have to frame your answer, and then accordingly you have to write. For example, is immortality necessary for rebirth? You see, this was the question this year's paper. It looks simple, but needs Bhagavad Gita, Buddhism, Anatta, Kant's moral postulate, and modern psychology. So all these has to be referred or combined, or at least brief content from these have to be accessed and then used also in this answer. Similarly, another question, Nyaya proofs for God. Not enough to just list them. Must evaluate with Charvak, Buddhism, Kant, Aquinas, Platinga, etc. So the difficulty is not in what is asked, but how deeply it must be answered. So this is the crux of the whole uh, this kind of questions. See, not that simply you simply write 9 proofs of existence and you will get marks, full marks. No, you have to critically evaluate also those and also refer some other philosophers, some other schools. Then accordingly you have to answer. Strategy lessons. What can be the strategy lessons as far as paper 2 is concerned? This paper teaches revise recurring topics because they are again and again being asked. So, for example, justice, equality, liberty, secularism, proofs for God, religious language, rebirth, and immortality. These are recurring topics. So, revise deeply, I mean, extensively. You are going to get questions definitely from this. Always prepare Indian Western thinkers together because you have to write in an integrated comparative manner. So, this integration is the key to high marks. In every answer, give critical evaluation. 30 to 40% I have written, but no, it can be from 15 to 40% depending on what kind of question is there. Examiner does not want only narration. So this is very clear. In socio-political philosophy, connect with current issues. So this is very important, like secularism, democracy, minority rights, etc. And current issues more particularly with Indian flavor. So this is again very important. So, and practice writing, because in first paper also we told, practice second paper also again we are telling, and usually in civil services that helps. So practice writing in the format introduction, exposition, critique, and conclusion. So this should be your format in which you practice. Again, use key references while practicing also, while answering. Rawls, Ambedkar, Gandhi, Kautilya, Ramanuja, Sankara, Nyaya, Hick, Wittgenstein, Plettinger. So all these are key schools and philosophers as far as paper or paper 2, section B and section A is concerned. Now, what can be the final takeaway as far as paper 2 is concerned? Some questions always repeat in new forms. This is first takeaway. So, for example, justice, equality, secularism, proofs for God, religious language. These are the topics which have been repeatedly every year being asked. But the shift is towards Indian philosophy and applied contexts. So this is again very, very important because while you read current affairs, you should know that this can be a topic which may be asked in philosophy paper 1 or paper 2 also. So accordingly, you have to prepare. So, but comparisons, when even though Indian philosophy and applied context is focused, but still comparisons with Western philosophy is important because you have to evaluate in a comparative manner. I mean, you after referring with Western thinkers also. So to succeed, a student must show clarity, evaluation, and integration of traditions. So basically, what is the final outcome? Philosophy is not about mugging up doctrines. It is about thinking deep and writing balanced, comparative, and critical answers. So basically, this completes the analysis of both the papers. What I'm going to do in next class is I will start discussing each question by question as far as both papers of philosophy optional of this year are concerned, because I think that is going to help the students more, particularly those who are preparing for next year's exam. So next class I will take up paper 1 section A, Western philosophy, and we'll see if we can complete that, so that in subsequent classes we can take Indian philosophy section, we'll take socio-political and philosophy of religion. So my proposal is that in next 4 classes, I would like to complete the discussion and model answers for both the papers of 2025 exam. If you remember, if you have seen my earlier class videos, 2024, I have already discussed the model answers. Already videos are available on YouTube channel as well. So you can see that. 2023, some questions topic wise, I have already discussed in those topics. So you can see there. So next 3-4 classes, I'm going to take up 2025 exam paper question by question discussion. So this is what my strategy will be. So thanks a lot for watching this video. Thank you, everyone.